Hello and a very warm welcome to Front Page at 9 p.m. only on the AIM Network, India's definitive media organization and voice in everything AI and technology. And on popular demand, Front Page from here on will be live and kicking from 9 p.m. onwards, Monday to Friday. And to celebrate that, here are the headlines. Cursor's $2 billion revenue explosion proves social media death threats were wrong. While the internet bet on Claude Code, corporate giants quietly scaled Cursor, doubling its run rate in just 90 days. President Trump purged Anthropic from federal agencies today, labeling Claude a supply chain risk over safety disputes. OpenAI immediately secured the military contract, sparking a record 295% surge in ChatGPT uninstalls. In a historic shift, Hyderabad has overtaken Bengaluru as India's top destination for the new global capability centers in 2025, capturing 43% of all new setups as infrastructure and policy execution win. OpenAI accidentally exposes GPT 5.4 alpha, also rumored 2 million context window and stateful memory signal agentic arms race. Anthropic officially drops voice mode for Claude Code, enabling hands-free AI programming via a 5% initial rollout, despite back-to-back global outages and a high-stakes standoff with the US Department of Defense. China's DeepSeek V4 drops this week, bypassing US chips for Huawei Silicon. The multimodal powerhouse aims to repeat last year's $500 billion market wipeout, targeting total global AI hardware decoupling. Google officially retires Gemini 3 Pro on March the 9th, forcing a high-stakes migration to 3.1 Pro preview, as the tech giant reallocates massive compute resources to stabilize its next-generation frontier. Indian venture capital is flipping the script, prioritizing clear exit pathways like IPOs and secondary sales before deploying capital. This exit-first strategy demands sustainable unit economics and proven profitability over raw growth. 2 months ago felt like a done deal. Open your feed and it was the same story everywhere. Cursor was finished. Opinion pieces said so. Reddit threads picked it apart. YouTube videos with dramatic thumbnails repeated it. Claude Code has killed Cursor. That was the line. And a lot of loyal users said they were walking away. X was a literal echo chamber from $1 billion to $2 billion annual recurring revenue. In 3 months, 90 days to add $1 billion in revenue. This is Front Page. Like, share, subscribe, and let's understand the numbers. Here's, of course, what's worth paying attention to. Roughly 60% of that funding isn't driven by hobbyists or online chatter. It's coming from large organizations, established engineering teams inside Fortune 500 companies making calculated bets. Now consider the people behind it. AnySphere began in 2022 with 4 MIT classmates, Michael Truel, Aman Sengar, Suhaila Asif, and Arvind Lunemark. In just a few years, the company has reached a valuation of $29.3 billion and secured $2.3 billion in funding. They're still in their 20s and they are now billionaires. And all of it happened while sections of the internet were confidently predicting their decline and labeling them as obsolete. And this is where it actually gets interesting. You might think Claude Code already won. It's sitting at around $2.5 billion in annual recurring revenues. It's growing fast. So how can both be winning? Because the idea that one had killed the other came from a very, very small and a very aggressive corner of the developer world. The heavy automation crowd, the terminal-first loyalists, and of course, the neo-Vim purists. They prefer Claude Code. Yes, they absolutely do. And they make a lot of noise about it. But many others want something way simpler. They want to see their edits in line and don't want to manage everything through a command line. So basically, one works beside you and the other works ahead of you. Cursor is a co-pilot, Claude Code is an autopilot. Two different lanes, one massive highway. At the start of 2025, the AI coding market was estimated at around $500 million. Today, between Cursor, Claude Code and GitHub Copilot, it has crossed $5 billion in less than a year. This is one of those rare moments when the market expands even as competitors pile in. And there's of course a lesson in all of that. The loudest people online are rarely the ones approving budgets. The developers paying for $40 corporate licenses are not posting threads about it. They're actually just building and they're staying in the flow state. And that momentum explains what happened next. Cursor introduced Composer, its own model. The reason is straightforward. Relying entirely on external providers like OpenAI or Anthropic squeezes the margins. Inference costs are very high and they add up quickly at scale. So if you control more of the stack, you control more of the economics. That matters in a market which is becoming increasingly competitive. Microsoft's Copilot is established. Anthropic's Claude Code is growing fast. Replete and Cognition are building aggressively. Even former GitHub chief Thomas Domke has entered the space with a new venture called Entire. It has rapidly become a very crowded field. And yet, Cursor is scaling faster than almost any SaaS unicorn in history. And here, of course, is the front page take. The Cursor is dead story lasted what? About 2 months? 2 months of confident posts, 2 months of think pieces, and of course 2 months of people saying it was over. And then of course the revenue crossed another billion. Imagine building through all of that. Watching the internet hold a funeral for your company while your customers renew their contracts. Consensus is not reality. Virality is not revenue. Reddit is not the enterprise. So what's happening in AI coding is actually a shift in what software is built on and not a winner takes it all drama. These tools are becoming part of the baseline. So the next time your timeline declares something is finished, don't scroll through the replies. Hold on and look at the numbers. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. Yesterday, this story made the front page. Anthropic's Claude AI was at the center of a heated debate over its use in a United States military operation against Iran. Even as a federal ban on the technology was being rolled out, today, everything has changed. The United States government has shifted its tone. The State Department is moving toward OpenAI. The Treasury is stepping away from Anthropic. A federal housing contract has been terminated. And at the Pentagon, a phase-out is underway. And now comes, of course, the formal label. Anthropic designated a supply chain risk. This is no longer a policy shift. It looks more like a digital purge. And we, of course, examined this, the early signs of it, on Front Page yesterday. The contest over AI influence is now moved firmly inside Washington. But then, of course, the question is, how did it unravel this quickly? Earlier this year, Anthropic wanted in $100 million, which is the Pentagon prize. The mission, voice-controlled autonomous drone swarms. Think Spider-Man, far from home, but without the teenage chaos. Not firing the missiles itself, but actually interpreting intent. Turning a commander's instructions into digital execution. Coordinating systems across the fleet, except, you know what? This isn't a Marvel script, and there's no cut to black when things go wrong. Anthropic had made a clear assurance. A human would always make the final decision. But in practice, the boundaries began to look, well, less certain. And the Pentagon took a closer look at the technology. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth didn't hesitate. By Friday night, the deal was over. State Chat is now running on GPT 4.1. Anthropic has gone from preferred partner to absent name almost overnight. But it would be wrong to assume if OpenAI is quietly celebrating, the public is paying attention. Online, nothing disappears, as we know. Screenshots circulate, contracts are dissected. The moment OpenAI signed with the Department of War, the reaction was very swift and intense. Uninstall rates for ChatGPT up by 295%, nearly 3 times the usual level of churn. So for a sector built on speed and scale, that kind of backlash lands very hard. And it raises a very difficult question, which is, can you separate the assistant that drafts your emails from the systems being used in defense operations? Sam Altman felt the heat. He's scrambling. OpenAI just announced a massive Trust Us update. New rules for the War Department. No domestic surveillance, no tracking your personal data, and no NSA backdoors without a fresh signature. And of course, no following unconstitutional orders. Altman actually admitted it. The rollout was definitely not ideal. It was rushed. Should we consider this as, well, a very rare moment of humility or just brilliant PR? He's trying to walk the tightrope. National security on one side, civil liberties on the other. And this is not so much about the stock prices, instead about who controls the kill switch. Meanwhile, Anthropic believed its guardrails would protect it. It said it would not build targeting systems. Washington's response was colder, and that distinction honestly may not matter. One company finds itself pushed aside. Another is handed deeper access. AI governance is no longer an abstract campus debate. It is being written into the defense budgets worth billions, shaped through procurement decisions, signed off in executive orders, and sometimes determined by which systems federal agencies choose to run. And here is the front page take. So where is the line now? The fear of autonomous weapons is no longer theoretical. It is actually a part of active policy discussions and, in some cases, operational planning. AI labs are beginning to resemble defense contractors, not in hardware, but honestly in influence. Their choices carry geopolitical weight. Anthropic is on the outside, OpenAI is inside government systems, but facing public skepticism. Some users are walking away. Federal agencies, meanwhile, are moving faster. The decisive battles aren't playing out on the social media anymore. They're actually unfolding in contract clauses, procurement reviews, and classified briefings. The company that secures those agreements shapes the tools that shape modern warfare. So I want to ask you, where do you stand? Do you back restraint or engagement from within? This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Please do let us know your comments, your thoughts in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. For the longest time, if you were setting up a global capability center in India, the answer was almost automatic. Bengaluru. It had the talent pool, the track record, and the advantage. But in 2025, that dominance is being challenged. And this isn't about perception. The data is beginning to tell a different story. Hyderabad has not merely entered the contest, it has decisively moved ahead. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page. And before we examine what really happened, please take a moment to support the channel. Like, share, subscribe. And of course, always, you will remain ahead of the story. Now, between January and November 2025, India birthed nearly 100 new global capability centers, 95 to be precise. Where did they go? 41 of them landed in Hyderabad. That is roughly 43% of the entire year's growth. Bengaluru is trailing. Over 3 years, Hyderabad has provided for 40% of all new greenfield GCCs, 64 out of the last 160. The executives in New York and London clearly aren't choosing cities in this case, Bengaluru, for the nightlife. They're actually choosing for speed. But then, of course, why is Hyderabad winning? Bengaluru has the legacy, but Hyderabad has the execution. Bengaluru has the talent density, yes. Hyderabad has the cranes in the sky. The new reality is product engineering, AI, cybersecurity. Telangana has made sure they cleared the path for investment, faster approvals, massive IT parks, data center incentives. While Bengaluru fights traffic, Hyderabad builds arterial roads. While Bengaluru debates, Hyderabad expands the metro. But global boards love that, more than actually just a craft beer. The OGs are worried. Mohandas Pai is sounding the alarm. Kiran Mazumdar Shaw says the clock is ticking. And you know what? They're right. Infrastructure is the new competitive advantage. You can't code your way out of a 3-hour commute. Global talent is mobile. They compare the road quality, compare the power stability, and right now, they're choosing the city that actually works. But of course, we need to wait a moment and ask ourselves, is Bengaluru finished? Well, that would be a risky assumption. The established leader, well, still carries weight and influence. If we investigate that a little further, one realizes that Google is expanding the AI heavyweights. 11 Labs, Harvey, Mistral, Anthropic, they're all here. Disney is doubling down on AI in the city. The deepest talent pool in Asia still lives in Karnataka. Minister Priyank Kharge is playing tech diplomacy at a very high level. The ecosystem is strong, built over decades, but even a stronghold becomes difficult to navigate when access starts to slow down. India, of course, GCC economy is too massive for just one zip code. We are seeing $1 trillion diversification. Enterprise leaders are optimizing for reliability over history. They're seeking policy predictability and they want speed. Hyderabad is winning on the right now front, while Bengaluru still leads in deep technology. But momentum doesn't stay loyal forever. And at this moment, the energy is building elsewhere. Right now, it's Hyderabad drawing the attention. Well, close to 100 new centers in a single year. That tells you something. The balance of power is being tested. The race is far from settled, but the message is clear. And you know what? It's being heard in Bengaluru. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. The internet has sharp eyes. You know that. So when OpenAI pushed what looked like a routine codex update to GitHub, a few developers did what developers always do. They started digging. And that's when something interesting showed up. Buried in the code was a line that read GPT 5.4 or newer. Now that's not vague. It's not like a placeholder text. It's oddly precise. For a brief moment, an endpoint labeled Alpha GPT 5.4 was sitting right there in plain view, as if someone backstage forgot the microphone was still on. Then, of course, just as quickly, it disappeared, force pushed, edited, tidied away. But by that point, the screenshots were already circulating. So no, this wasn't just a stray line of code, it was a small glimpse behind the curtain. And the curtain didn't close quite fast enough. And if that brief glimpse was real, the implications are not small. Time, of course, to talk about the specifications. Because if the leaks are accurate, the scale changes dramatically. We are hearing about a context window of 2 million tokens, roughly double that of Claude Opus 4.6. I believe that requires a moment to pause and absorb. This means that it could actually hold an entire company code base, a full research archive, large complex projects sitting in working memory at once. And then, of course, there's the more significant shift, persistent state. In other words, the system doesn't simply reset when you close the tab. It retains the structure of the project, the reasoning behind the decisions. The interaction moves beyond short exchanges and begins to resemble continuity. So no need to restate the background every Monday morning. So what was also noteworthy in the scrubbed code is a line which read full resolution vision. Currently, AI looks at your images through a blurry lens. It compresses, guesses, and sometimes, most times, hallucinates the details. GPT 5.4 is set to handle original bytes directly, not just compressed summaries. In practical terms, that means pixel-level analysis. If you work in front-end or design architecture, this definitely matters. It's the difference between a system guessing that looks like a button and pointing out that your padding is off by 3 pixels, and that the shade of gray isn't quite accurate. If that level of precision holds up, the conversation moves from approximation to inspection, which changes expectations overnight. And that may explain the urgency, because the playing field is fiercely competitive. Anthropic is gaining ground in coding. Claude Code has captured a huge share of developer attention. DeepSeek is expanding fast beyond the usual chip alliances. OpenAI can feel that. It launched GPT 5.3 Codex 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it's only been 2 weeks and already talks of 5.4. And if that's true, 5.3 may go down as the shortest lived reign in recent tech memory. Prediction markets are reacting, some putting a 74% chance of a release before June. I don't think this is any longer an attempt at slightly sharper chatbot, but instead a change in the role itself. The model stops being the assistant waiting for you to tell it what to do and turns into that colleague who's already rebuilt the entire project overnight and left you a note saying, "Fixed it." And here, of course, is the front page take. So do you think it was an accident, or was it a calculated leak to freeze Anthropic's momentum? In this industry, one doesn't always need a big launch event. Sometimes all it takes is one careless line on GitHub and the internet does the marketing for you. The alpha endpoints look ready. The rollout tiers don't look accidental. It actually feels prepared and not some experiment that by mistake was exposed. As far as that jump everyone keeps talking about from assistant to agent, we believe it no longer seems like a fantasy, but just software waiting to be switched on. So do you also get this feeling that sometimes OpenAI is not trying to stay in the race, but trying to redraw the track while everyone else is still running? If you do, please do let us know in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. One question. 6 months of waiting. When does Anthropic go full multimodal? Well, no need to wonder anymore. Congratulations, it is here. Voice mode is hitting Claude Code right now. About 5% of users get it first. The rest, well, you're being told it's only a few weeks away. And if you thought this was just a shiny new feature, think again. This shifts how the tool plays a role inside your day and reshuffles who's really actually figuring out the workflow. Welcome to Front Page. Like, share, subscribe. And if you're ready for the journey ahead, glad to have you with us. What Anthropic has done is to have turned your terminal into a listener. Here is the play-by-play. You'll see the notification. It's a literal welcome to the future screen. 2 ways to play it. Type/voice to lock it in, or for that matter, hold the space bar, speak your logic, release. The text hits the cursor instantly. No need to jump to a separate app, or for that matter, toggle windows like a frantic intern. One has the option to mix voice and typing in the same breath. It's seamless, it's fluid, and it may well be the end of the Alt-Tab era. Claude Code already has the position of being the champ for serious developers. Now, with this hands-free prompt innovation, imagine the flow it brings to your work. So you could be actually debugging while you're thinking out aloud, because typing forces one to structure, slowing the brain down to finger speed. Voice on the other hand, is raw ideation, making way for cognitive bandwidth expansion. So for the founders still awake at 2 a.m., this is fuel. And with it, you're actually calling the shots, setting the tempo, letting the system handle the heavy lifting while you keep the rhythm flowing. And just, of course, as everyone was getting excited about speed, I'd like to say, hold on a second. Anthropic had a rough 24 hours. 3rd of March, around 8:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time, the screen goes blank. Service unavailable. In India, users noticed immediately. More than 300 reports came in. About 59% stuck on the chat interface, 22% on the web, 18% on mobile. And this wasn't a one-off. There already had been an outage the day before, on the 2nd of March. So much, of course, for the momentum. It was like your favorite app crashing during a big live match. I guess even the fastest platforms can stumble when the lights go out. Could happen to the best of us. But you know what? Here's what makes it very strange. Users are angry, of course. The hashtags are very obvious. Hashtag quit ChatGPT, hashtag cancel ChatGPT. But still, they aren't running back to OpenAI. Scroll through the comments and you'll see it. Yes, it's down. No, I'm still not switching. That kind of loyalty doesn't just happen magically. And the rollout seems deliberate. Anthropic reaches the top of the application store. Mobile growth accelerates. Its hold in coding remains solid. Then, of course, it announces multimodal features. So have you noticed, while OpenAI and the trillion-dollar dreamers debate context windows and benchmarks, Anthropic seems focused on something smaller. Seconds. Saving them, stretching them, giving them back. Because in the end, time is the only metric people truly notice. And that, of course, brings us to the bigger shift. Look around. The interface itself is starting to fade into the background. And the keyboard, well, it's beginning to feel a little less like the centerpiece and more like an old habit we haven't quite let go of. Claude Code is setting into the background of your editor and increasingly into your voice. You speak, it responds, and it is more like actually thinking out aloud with it. When those small delays disappear, the switching, the rephrasing, the repeating, the pace of work changes. You find yourself moving through tasks without actually stopping to manage the tool itself. And that's when productivity begins to gather momentum of its own. And here, of course, ladies and gentlemen, is the front page take. 5%, get it today, everyone else won't be far behind. Sure, elegant Python is important, but with this development, it seems it is increasingly becoming about which tool slips into your day without slowing you down. Voice is live. Multimodal is rolling out. For some, the keyboard is no longer the center of the setup. So I, of course, need to ask, where do you stand? OpenAI or Anthropic? And of course, why? Please do tell us in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. 1 year ago, DeepSeek R1 dropped. The world broke, the US app charts topped, NVIDIA's market cap vaporized. $500 billion gone in a single trading session. History's biggest wipeout. President Trump called it a wake-up call. The industry called it a Sputnik moment. Well, the snooze button just expired. DeepSeek is back. The flagship is ready, and this time it sees, it hears, it moves, and so does Front Page. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page. Like, share, subscribe, and let's, if you're ready, get into the war room. The rumor mill is red hot. DeepSeek V4 is hitting the deck this week, just in time for China's 2 sessions political gauntlet. The specs, aggressive, text, image, video, all in one box. But here is, of course, the fun part. DeepSeek didn't call NVIDIA for a compatibility check. They didn't ask for permission. What they did was to optimize this little beast on Huawei and Cambricon chips. Domestic silicon, domestic code, a total bypass of the Western hardware stack. Remember the R1 playbook? It was good and it was cheap. It rivaled the best of DC and San Francisco for a fraction of the cost. Open source, free and disruptive. It proved one doesn't need a $1 trillion GPU hoard to win. Now, of course, V4 is doubling down on that efficiency narrative. The so-called winners in California are sweating. Oracle, Amazon, Microsoft, they all have felt the tremors the last time around. This, of course, goes beyond a routine update. What you're seeing is separation happening in real time. Companies pulling more of the stack under their own control. Control of the software, control of the hardware, and slowly, almost silently, new digital borders are starting to take shape. And those borders aren't forming in isolation. DeepSeek isn't alone in this push. Inside China, the competition is intense. Alibaba has rolled out Qwen 3.5. ByteDance, better known globally for TikTok, has launched SeedDance 2.0. Moonshot's Kimi 2.5 is live. Then we have Zipu, which has introduced GLM 5.0. And then there's Minimax. Its M2.5 model is being positioned as a serious challenger to Claude 4.6. At roughly a tenth of the price. Revenue reportedly has jumped 159% in a year. UBS has taken notice, calling it a buy, pointing to what it sees as a $41 billion enterprise opportunity. The contest within China is no less fierce, mind you, than the one playing out between Beijing and Washington. The United States government just tightened its grip on Anthropic, as we had spoken about earlier on Front Page. OpenAI has just, of course, inked a deal with the Department of War. The energy, pure cyberpunk 2077. The lines are drawn. DeepSeek strategy is a heat-seeking missile. Build power, use local chips, stay open source, kill the cost curve. If V4 delivers multimodal magic at made-in-China prices, Silicon Valley's business model is definitely a house of cards. The efficiency dialogue is back, and you know what? With a vengeance. And here, of course, as always, is the front page take. DeepSeek V4, multimodal, UA fueled, politically timed. Last year was a shock. This year is, I believe, a test of the throne. The trillion-dollar dream of the West is facing a reality check. The balance of power isn't shifting. It's actually being recalibrated. If you believe that, let us know in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Always remember, think AI, think AIM. If your production code is running on Gemini 3 Pro, your world changes on the 9th of March. Google's Logan, Kilpatrick dropped the bomb on X. The old guard, which is Gemini Pro 3, is going to be retired, and the new blood taking its place is 3.1 Pro Preview. And it is coming for your API keys. 80% of our viewers right now are new, and that definitely encourages us. But you know what will encourage us even further? If you can spend a millisecond of your life and hit that subscribe button, it will seriously give us a great confidence boost, and we'll put in a lot more work than we already are to make sure that we bring you the content which delights your day, keeps you ahead of the curve, and keeps you coming back for more. And now, of course, back to the story. All set. If you're on AI Studio, March 9th has turned into a stone-cold wall. No extensions, no grace period. For Vertex AI users, you still might actually have until the 23rd of March. Emails are hitting inboxes like digital eviction notices. But then the question is, why the rush? Why the scorched earth migration? One word, compute. Google is defragmenting. They are clearing the deck. They need every single TPU, yes, those custom AI chips, to prop up the 3.1 preview. The frontier doesn't just press forward, it is cannibalizing its own. But a look behind the curtains reveals that the trillion-dollar dream is hitting a hardware ceiling. Reddit is a graveyard of error codes right now. Developers are frustrated about 503 errors, outages that last for hours, zero status page updates. One developer expressed his irritation by saying, "I can't explain to users why their app died at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday." And Kilpatrick admitted it. The infrastructure team is battling right now. Demand is spiking, TPUs are sweating. The logic is quite unforgiving. So it is kill 3 Pro. Free the compute, stabilize the new shiny toy, making this a move which is more like a forced march. The pattern then goes on to suggest that this is a strategy. Remember Gemini 3.0's launch? Suddenly, 2.5 Pro users saw the hallucination flu. Response times tanked. The suspicion was Google had rerouted the juice required to the new model. History doesn't simply repeat itself, it actually adapts. Older models are gradually slowed, given less prominence. Newer ones move to the front of the queue. And users often find themselves nudged, sometimes firmly, toward the upgrade, ready or not. And that very pressure explains the urgency. The field is crowded. Claude Code continues to win over developer workflows. OpenAI's GPT models are evolving rapidly, often behind the scenes. DeepSeek is preparing its next version. And Google cannot rely on a comfortable, long-lived release. It needs its next iteration to compete at the highest level. In that environment, older versions become expendable. Progress moves on, even if it means leaving a few products behind. And here, of course, is the front page take. The idea that a model will stay unchanged for years is definitely fading. Frontier AI moves quickly now. It is revised, replaced, refined, often faster than the businesses built on top of it expect. So if you're building on these systems, you're building on ground that can shift. That means planning for change as a default. Migration can't be an afterthought. When the underlying infrastructure updates, your product feels it too. March 9th should be read carefully. One version steps aside, another takes its place. The frontier doesn't stand still, and in a race refined by intelligence, stability may prove just as valuable. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM. India's private equity landscape is changing. In November 2025 alone, buyouts accounted for $2.1 billion worth in investment value, ahead of startup funding at $1.7 billion. So since 2020, buyouts have totaled $47.5 billion across 174 deals, representing 19% of overall PE and VC investment in the pure play PE space. Technology leads this surge, accounting for $20.1 billion in buyouts, more than financial services and pharmaceuticals combined. After the IPO highs of 2021, the sharp correction in 2022, and of course the rebound that followed, investors are focusing less on momentum and more on operational depth, control, and disciplined exits. So is this a cycle, or is this a structural reset? To let us understand this a lot better, I am joined by our very brilliant and enterprising tech journalist, Smruti Nadik, who is going to be navigating these dodgy waters with us on Front Page. Welcome to Front Page, Smruti.
Thank you.
True pleasure having you with us.
Always.
So let's just start, Smruti, with the fact that, let's set a context first. Are we seeing this as more of a fundamental shift, or is it something else?
No, we're definitely seeing this as a fundamental shift because it's more control driven. It seeks more operationally active buyouts because fund managers are also seeking stakes to influence the strategy, create more value, secure exit paths. This is also a reflection of a mature market, when ownership and operational control is increasingly becoming more and more desirable for investors as well as founders. In an informal chat, an investor put it very plainly with me where he said, it's like how this generation is family planning right now. Yeah. You're not only looking at the finances, but you're looking at what is going to happen at what stage of that child's life. It's about when they maybe go do sports, when they want to be independent,
so
when you want to be let alone.
Siloed and compartmentalized, would you say?
Yes, more managed also, not just in like finances, but to understand what kind of a good parent you can be.
Correct.
When to leave them alone, when to control their anger, when to, just speak to them and have that mentorship. It's very similar to that, which was nicely put by that investor.
But it's very interesting, no, Smruti, that like you said, you've mentioned that this is also the market maturing. This kind of methodology was something which wasn't seen in the past, no? And why do you see that maybe that shift is taking place or that maturity is coming through, for example?
I mean, India is becoming more and more visible in many sectors right now, especially in tech and other cash-generating sectors. It's like food delivery apps or grocery apps. We're very much visible, and it's also working with the people. In the last 10 years, we've been so digitized that everything digitally really works. So the market has matured. The way founders are looking at how to scale and also, to think about what solution that they're going to solve.
True.
Not just, building something for the sake of it. Just really catering to the people. Really, it matters in the mature market, and that's what is happening right now.
So I guess the environment has helped in a big way also, because we are competing internationally, and that always tends to put a certain sense of positive pressure when you start to build on something. I of course have to call out some numbers. Buyouts have totaled $47.5 billion since 2020, and now of course represent 19%, as I had mentioned earlier. 2025 November alone saw $2.1 billion, Smriti. What's driving this acceleration?
Exit strategies, 2 words. And when you're planning for stronger exit strategies, value is created in those focused startups or companies. And like I mentioned, the tech and cash generative sectors, like in the infographics mentioned, many companies are looking at how to solve a problem, like I mentioned before. And even founders have become more mature to see what is working for them, what is not working for them, when it is the right time for them to leave a venture capital firm or a PE firm later on, because it gives them that period of time to even think about how they want to scale, right? And what kind of mentorship that they seek, what the next person is going to give them with regards to generating more revenue or networking with the people that they need to for global market reach. So these are some of the things that are really important, and I think that's what is happening with better exit strategies, because everybody is aware and on the same wavelength that there's an expiration date for everything.
Correct.
You know when to leave what, and you do the same with businesses right now.
But it's also it's strange, right? That entire aspect of the legacy mindset.
Yeah.
The old days, building a family business, figuring out things like that. That's changed so dramatically with these things happening. Technology accounts for $20.1 billion worth, Smriti. So what do you have to say to that? Because this is way more than pharmaceuticals and I believe the finance sector combined.
Yeah. It's a booming market. We're also technology journalists right now, specifically because it's such a big market in India right now. Because they offer scalability, predictable revenues, they give strong growth potential, and also professional management, which is very control oriented at this point, and you can decipher right now what is going to happen later on. Some of the things that are helping this is the deals that we're getting from different countries, not just the Western part of the world, but also in Southeast Asia. In South Asia, we're getting a lot of programs, accelerator programs. Many startups and companies are creating that visibility for themselves through investors, through market reach, or the problem solution things that they are creating right now. It's also that when you create for India, it's very easy for you to also create the same thing for the world.
Correct.
Because there's a lot of compliance issues, bureaucratic processes here also. So when you try to do that in other parts of the world, it broadens your horizon too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also the fact that you mentioned that, and I think it's a crucial point, also the nuanced market that India is. I think it's a great wetting ground for a lot of companies. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, there are different diverse groups that you can check your, pilot programs with.
Sure.
If something is working for one particular class, it's not going to work for the other. You need to, in India, you need to look at how you cater to the rural population as well. Tier 2, Tier 3 is also rising with many AI hubs right now. So you need to cater to a large demographic in India, which helps you to scale your products in other places.
So I guess that line is definitely correct, right? If you can sell here, you can sell anywhere.
That is exactly what I've been hearing from founders when I take these interviews, because when they scale in India, throughout India, not just like one city or Tier 1 cities, it's very easy for them to scale throughout the world as well.
Fabulous. Then the next one, again, the numbers. I have to keep going back to the numbers. By the way, for everyone who's watching, Smriti has written out these 2 articles. And they're very in-depth, so I would implore everyone to please go ahead and take a look at both the articles. They are at on our website, which is the Analytics India magazine. So Blackstone reports 20%, right, Smriti? Plus, which is the IRRs from control investments. And Bain now embeds value creation teams into every deal. So the point I want to ask you is this: has Indian private equity moved away from the financial structuring to hands-on operational transformation?
Yeah, absolutely. It is shifting towards a more operational transformation because controlled deals are delivering these IRRs, and investors also are looking at portfolio performance rather than just financial engineering. It's not only about the money, it's about the tech integration that you have in your startups, the margin expansion it can give you, the control stakes can enable faster strategic pivots also. You need to constantly think about what is going to work right now and what is not going to work later on.
And that later on is not too far away.
Yeah, not too far. Things change very quickly in this digital space. So all in all, like I said, it's like a family planning. You need to really look at what is working, how they're scaling, what revenue expansion they're getting, how much money or profits they're making. If they exit, how much funds that they will get. Even when you have a strategic alignment like this, it's easier for them to be publicly listed also.
True.
Yeah.
Tell me this, Smriti, very quickly before we move on to the AI aspect, because that is a lion's share and the way it's accelerated only recently. What do you feel has been the contribution as far as the state is concerned in terms of the policies, for example, or in terms of, how the government is giving a lot of kid glove treatment as far as technology or AI, etc. is concerned? Only in the budget recently, we all kind of noticed that. So do you think that also has had a strong influence as far as the PE and this shift is concerned?
I mean, definitely when the state governments are bringing up a lot of startup policies, so deep tech policies, creating quantum cities, AI hubs across India, even AI infrastructure and data centers, sovereign AI, when we're constantly talking about these things and, amending our policies or introducing newer things, it becomes more visible for other people to notice us, for other big private equity firms to notice that this is actually accelerating in India, because that visibility is very important. If not, they're not going to believe you that this is something that's going to work in India.
True.
In that manner, I think it's great. Even the AI Impact Summit put a precedent that there's something big happening in India.
Right.
While there weren't very specific things happening, but the big tech companies got a lot of visibility. We got a lot of deals with legacy IT sectors as well. So that's definitely helping.
So all of that momentum is definitely in so many ways bolstering this entire ecosystem in a big way. And you feel that will be a good sign for a lot of the new people who are who are dreamers, who are trying to figure out things, and with this kind of an ecosystem taking place, this is the right time for them to maybe start moving forward?
It could be but they're still struggling with the compute costs. They're still struggling with the bureaucratic processes. All of those things are going to be there, but then more than currently in a very macro level perspective, more than talking the talk, being involved in the talk is really helping India, because people are noticing there are many startups that are collaborating with foreign investors. The funding has gone up and down a lot in the last 2 years, but they're still in the talk cycle, and being in the talk cycle really helps for an emerging market like ours.
We didn't have the talk cycle, so it's encouraging now, which is a good thing. Now, of course, coming to address the elephant in the room, which is the AI aspect. So, do you consider this as an existential risk or a growth multiplier? Because a lot of experts are calling it that. So, I want to understand what you have to say.
I think, in my opinion, it is both, especially in this era of AI where everything is changing rapidly. You have to factor in the AI capabilities, scalability, and integration into the business that is actually solving a problem with. You also have to consider the pricing deals, because it's a diverse market here.
Yes.
Something very expensive is not going to work with households that you might be targeting. You have to also forecast returns, assess the risk, because like I mentioned, what is working in the beginning of the year might not work towards the end of the year.
Pricing, according to me, Smriti, is very important in India, I feel. I mean, look at any sector for that matter, right? Price points are very important.
Yeah, that's why you need some kind of mentorship to make the founders also commercially aware that in the beginning, it might not be possible for you to make profits, but you're building that momentum for yourself so that 5 years down the line, after these long gestation cycles, you get what you want.
Point.
Yeah, you reap what you sow, so you need to take it slowly.
Fair. What do you have to say in finality? What do you feel, given whatever we've discussed till now, and of course, you have had insights from a lot of the investors. What's the mood looking like? How are things looking like, for example, 3 years ahead? What's the road looking like?
So it's a very mix of emotions where some of the investors want people to build proprietary models, but some of the investors are actually understanding that building proprietary models is not necessary for India because people are creating a lot of things.
Sure.
If you're building upon that and providing scalable solutions for your region, that's more important. But the venture capital firms are really helping small startups with seed funding in early stage funding. That's really helping right now. FDI has gone low in the last year. I covered that last year, and I saw, especially in Bangalore, we hit a low sometime in 2025. But a lot of AI and deep tech focused venture capital firms are coming up. After they also have an exit strategy is when they can also go to larger PE firms and be like, this has actually worked right now and you can come to us and, we will give you some kind of predictable revenue from this segment.
Which is nice.
Yeah, which is great.
Would you like to maybe share a use case if you have something, if you remember from the top of your head in terms of
I don't know the name of the startup, I forget, but I think Yali Capital, when I spoke to them, the investor had mentioned that the startup already had spoken to somebody else at that moment of time, who then acquired them. So this gave them a good exit strategy because they weren't capable of giving them something after a certain point. And those products that they were trying to build were more aligned with the next firm that was going to give them funding. So that alignment within the relationship between the investors and the founders and the future investors is also very important. It gives you that time and space to really think about what you want from this startup or your company.
So good times ahead?
Yeah, I think so.
Fair. Well, there you have it. Smriti, of course, agrees. And thank you so much, as always, Smriti, for being on Front Page. It's a true pleasure to always have you with us. And, well, ladies and gentlemen, as Smriti put it across, first and foremost, a gentle reminder that it would be nice for you to go ahead and take a look at her articles. They are in depth. They are on the Analytics India magazine website. And as I believe my takeaway would be from what she had mentioned right at the top of this discussion, it is a talk cycle that India has gotten into, which is a wonderful little encouragement which has taken place. And also, more importantly, the entire ecosystem is looking at it more in a planned manner now. And they are more cognizant of the fact that yes, deep tech and AI is taking precedence, and they are willing to hold hands and make things, well, look wonderful in the years ahead. Let's just hope whatever Smriti has spoken about starts to come true, and we really hope that the states do encourage and back these initiatives. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the AIM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AIM.